So something interesting happened today. And unfortunately, I mean, Donald Trump is now the face of our international policy, or at least he will after January. But it was interesting that Turkish President Erdogan weighed in, as well as Syrian President Assad. He weighed in and really well. Let me read the words for you. Their own words. So Syrian President Bashar al-Assad calls Donald Trump a natural ally in the quote unquote fight against terrorism. So in one breath, he condemned President Obama for engaging in the conflict, both against ISIS, but also kind of borderline regime change, but not full regime change, right? There's this tension clearly, and Russia's on the other side of the equation. We've had this conversation plenty of times. So now he sees in Trump something that he didn't see in President Obama, and he sees that Trump could be a natural ally. He said, quote, opposing forces within the administration can deliver on his promises. If he fights the terrorists, it is clear that he will be a natural ally together with the Russians, Iranians, and many other countries who want to defeat terrorists. So when he's talking about the opposing forces, saying that if Trump can overcome the opposing forces, 9 times out of 10, he's talking about Mike Pence, who has clearly in the debates, you saw he clearly broke with Donald Trump and with regards to Russia and with regards to the safe zone. So Assad is saying if Trump can overcome the objections and the pressure he'll get from Mike Pence, which is going to be kind of like a Dick Cheney level kind of influence, because Donald Trump is as feckless as George W. Bush. So the vice president is kind of the de facto president. If Donald Trump can overcome that and ignore Mike Pence's propensity for regime change and instituting that no-fly zone, then he sees Donald Trump as a natural ally alongside with the Iranians and the Russians. And when he says terrorists, fighting terrorists, obviously he's regarding to actually 2 groups that Assad considers to be terrorists, both ISIS as well as the rebel factions. So it's, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Our freedom fighters could be their terrorists. You got it. You get the picture. So the interesting thing is that, well, I think Erdogan said it best in a in a way that I disagree. He said it best. Erdogan, the Turkish president of Turkey, criticized the anti-Trump protest here in America. And I want to get his exact words because, he said it the way that only he could say it. He said, hold on a second. The election process just ended. Show some respect. How will he ever govern? Let's see that first. Talking about all the protesters. He said also they're attacking Trump because the person they wanted wasn't elected president. So basically saying all of you in the streets, the Turkish president who just got done cracking down in the most draconian fashion against a coup, and then some, right? He didn't just crack down on the coup. He went above and beyond and cracked down on everybody. He doesn't approve of your protests, and he wants you to just settle down and give Donald Trump a chance so we can see what he would do. The reason I say that's the most fitting statement is because I'm really curious how this plays out. Does Donald Trump ally with Russia and just kind of change the the global alignment? I mean, he's already talking about rolling back our influence in NATO, or our commitment rather to NATO. Right? He's already talking about being more protectionist, not really protectionist, but isolationist. Right? He's already talking about building the best relationship he can with Russia, which is not a bad thing. But to what extent and to what cost? Because, I know some people see the Russians as, and we'll talk about them in a second with the International Criminal Court, but some people see the Russians as valiant and noble. And I guess if we're going to follow that logic, we know some people who are sympathetic to the Assad regime. Plenty of my listeners are sympathetic to the Assad regime. I'm not going to open up that can of worms again. I probably will. I'm just lying. And then so to what extent and to at what cost do we have this cozy relationship with Russia, Syria, and Iran? I'm just curious how this. I'm with you, Erdogan. Let's see where this goes, because they're not just. I mean, we clearly are going to have to do things that are in their interest for them to consider us an ally. Not always a bad thing. Everything Syria does, Russia does, doesn't mean we have to oppose it. Clearly, I don't believe in that false dichotomy. But I would be fascinated to see after 4 years where America, because that's really what Trump is here for. Trump is the international face of our empire. Where does America fall? I mean, it's like a reshaping of the West, right? And I read a ridiculous headline. I didn't read the article. I'm not going to lie to you. But the headline was saying that Angela Merkel was now the leader of the free world. And the basic premise was because Donald Trump is not capable of being that leader. But actually, and I think that premise is bad, faulty, right? Because we have institutions to support Trump, right? Trump's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to destroy the world. But that headline may not be completely wrong, because if Trump begins aligning more so with Russia, because let me start here. There is still clearly a East-West divide. I don't know why, right? The West and the rest, right? Clearly, American imperialism has seen to it. It would be fascinating to see an alignment between Syria, Iran, Russia, and Trump's America. What would that do to the global order? I'm not saying bad or otherwise, but I do say it very soberly, and I don't look at any actor on the international stage and consider any actor to be either benevolent or anything but self-interested, right? There is absolutely nothing that Assad or Putin or anyone, Erdogan for that matter, or Trump, there's nothing that they're going to do that's not in their own best interest, both as a nation, but individually as a politician. So I don't look at anybody, America or Russia, as benevolent or good actors. They're just doing what's in their best interest. So that often means that both America and Russia and Syria and Iran, all the international players, China, that means that at times we're on the right side of history and at times we're on the absolute worst side of history, which means we can't look at the international order through these overly simplistic lenses and simply say America's the evil actor, so that must mean whoever opposes America is the good actor. That is almost like a childlike interpretation of the world, and it's completely inaccurate. The more accurate observation is that all of these actors are after their own best interests, both as a nation and as an individual politician. And so you can expect them to do things sometimes that are correct and sometimes that are very wrong. And to that end, I will be fascinated to see to what lengths Donald Trump is interested in going to make this cozy allyship with Syria and with Russia, who has newly just recently today exited the International Criminal Court.